been counted in. Looking at the board, we got a lot of bosses. I like seeing Nosk rear his ugly head once more. He's been a common presence this weekend, as well as Collector, Pale Lurker.
A lot of bosses and a lot of long staticals. I think Green Path Route is one of my favorite ones for that reason. It really doesn't require that much in items, but it takes, going through a really good chunk of the game. Same with Pale Lurker. Depending on how long this race lasts for, we could pretty much see every area, potentially.
And could be hunting for a lot of different progression as well. Shoutouts to the Fungal Core Elder Goal, which is one of the only things that uniquely calls for both claw and wings with no workarounds.
Yep, definitely. We also have a couple of random goals, actually not that many on this card if you don't look at the Grimchild Love Key requirements. There is Elegant Key in Shade Soul and 2 Soul Warriors. Or no, I'm sorry. I thought that was Check Shade Soul. We'll be looking for Shade Soul itself, looking for a couple of charm goals with Sprint Master, Dash Master, Thorns, Stalwart Shell, Lifeblood Charms, and Howling Wraiths.
Yeah, pretty good variety of random stuff to look for. I wonder...
Yeah, I think it is kind of nice. A really good balance between the ultra-long static goals and the random goals with an early VS.
So right away, we got 3 maps access with some hard logic air stalls if you want to go around to Green Path and into Fungal. That's also... I wonder if we see an early divergence.
And a very easy early Durandal. Normally Durandal, we associate with acid dunking 6 times in a row and forgetting to get enough soul before you start so you die. But with VS, you just, I believe 2 fireballs will kill a Durandal. So it's much easier. And I expect to see both racers charge into Green Path to try to get that.
And a dive as well at a Zelda.
And it is maximum price, 500.
Sour going to ignore it for now, already content with the 1 boulder killer that he's got. For that much Geo that early, especially with 3 maps already accessible in theory, I can understand that avoidance. But it's worth noting that we already have boss logic right off the bat.
Ooh, that is a great thought. Yeah, I agree with the decision not to buy the dive between stags, like Green Path Stag, for example, and the shops that are available. You really don't want to find yourself unable to buy vertical movement or something because you're holding on to this super expensive dive that doesn't get you anything.
Yeah, plus, right now, dive on its own, its biggest early access value is as a boulder killer, which they already have.
Right.
And so
also gets 1 check in Crystal Peak, but there are no goals over there, and no one's going to want to spend time on that.
Yeah, now there's a lot else you could do. We see Grimchild very likely.
3 grubs. What was that about? Something like early boss logic?
Plus Brum's Flame already on the board. I am so hopeful we see an early rush of that. That could be real exciting.
Remember that there are 4 grubs in Logic on Easy in Crossroads, and then 4 more grubs in Green Path. That adds up to 8, which means that 3 grub Grimchild is pretty easily in Logic at the moment.
I believe on Easy we lose 1 grub from both of those areas because we don't have a win.
Right. I counted 4 grubs in Crossroads. It should have been 3 grubs in Green Path.
Still very possible, very logical.
Yeah, 7 still enough to get 3 grub Grimchild, so.
And so my hopes are high.
Yep. Yeah, this is going to be a couple of goals for Sour Cream. I respect Choco's decision not to contest Green Path, knowing that missing the King's Path hard save is going to be a good bit behind Sour Cream exiting King's Pass.
And Choco as a runner also, we've noticed, idiosyncratically goes for Moloch early, and when you have a logical reason to do so, that's 6 map pins right away.
Yeah.
Still a little geo light, especially if you're eyeing that dive as well.
Right. The problem with 6 map pins is that the Dreamnail map pins are more expensive, so they'll need at least 650, assuming he unlocks the stack station pin. But that is an option, though it would make it really hard if that dive were actually required.
Absolutely. So as Choco does the ordinary green path loop, Sour's gonna round the corner, and I'm going to assume kill Mr. Randu without much trial or tribulation here.
I would think so. Yep, 2 fireballs, and it is gone for good. Alright, so what next? Gonna see an attempted fireball skip. You do need more than 1 cast to get across the moat. That was a very nice turnaround, so it was not an execution problem at all. And then back to Crossroads.
Yep, and so quick goal off the board. Not worth going for that green path fungal grub goal just yet, since you do need vertical to complete it. Or
it would be really cool to see. Would be really cool to see the Queen Station skip just to get that fungal waste map, but I do not blame anyone who is a little afraid of that one, or not fully comfortable in their fireball skipping. And it looks like Sour Cream is going to get the critical information here. I was sort of thinking that Choco would, have a good lead in knowing where Grimchild was, but I guess Sour Cream did get a bunch of grubs.
And nothing can deputize you to check grubs as effectively as knowing that you're up a goal.
True, absolutely.
This early.
Up a goal and has a very nice lead in terms of getting the map goal as well. Another option for getting the map goal would be, I believe visiting Resting Grounds is enough to put it into Zelda. I could be wrong.
I believe that's the case as well. Got a little bit of a convoluted way to get there. I think you'd need a Hopper % shade skip at this juncture.
Yeah, you could do that shade skip. You could also do the Dark Room to Resting Grounds to dive down and get to Kingdom's Edge that way.
Oh, that's fair. That Dark Room is much more accessible. I forgot about the dive that neither runner has yet. I wonder if we're going to see a split between early map pins from someone, followed by the other runner buying dive and trying to leverage it in that way.
I think that buying map pins and giving up that 500 geo dive would be very sickening. I would find it very hard to do that, knowing that you could end up farming the Husk Guard 10 times to try to catch back up to your opponent if it ends up required. Like, remember, we're only a lantern away from right side access that way.
Yeah, map pins is always one of the most annoying goals to have to consider in your routing when you don't have LEM access.
Yeah, unless we see like a 600 geo pickup or something, I would be very surprised by early map pins.
So it looks like this Crossroads circuit not yet paying out for Choco.
Did Choco visit the shops? I may have missed that. I know he defeated Gruzmother.
I saw him rescue Sly. He definitely did not skip up to Salubra, staying inside Easy Logic for right now. We'll get it on Sour's screen in just a sec.
Would be interested to see if Sour Fireball skips or Shade skips to Salubra. There are enough early term goals that I think it is a worthwhile decision. Ooh, very beautiful.
That gets it in 3. Salubra's got a whole lot of money, so that's
and a goal in unbreakable strength. So yeah, that also makes map pins very attractive, but Sour Cream is not going to be checking Malik for a while to get Dreamnail, I imagine.
Yeah.
Up, does Choco mark it? Yep.
Yes.
So False Knight had the value.
It's also been an interesting enough amount of time. It looks like Sly is a bust. An interesting amount of time for Sour to not be certain of where Choco was exactly. So I'm curious to see if we get the False Knight check, and for Sour to realize what pathing Choco took.
Yeah, and if that does happen, yeah, does Sour follow through? Yeah, really, at this point, I would sort of like to see the dive purchase from Sour. Like 1,000 Geo is definitely enough that you feel comfortable spending 500 on dive now, and it does unlock a fair bit of stuff in theory. Yeah, even just getting the Crystal Beak bench is nice.
And to say nothing of the Grim fight, it's also worth noting on the later side of things with that white fragment we saw at the VS check. That is the second white fragment we have seen. There was one at, I believe, 15 grubs. So it's a little early to hope for something that convoluted, but it is an option on the table.
Yep. Not much in Abyss on the card, so could be that neither runner is particularly drawn to do checks over there, but we'll see if it ends up being relevant. Yeah, seeing Slide the second.
Checking Slide, yep.
On Choco's side, just really empty.
Sour gonna finish up this fight and pick up the Stalwart Shell to know exactly where relative to Choco he is now, as it looks like Choco is picking up that dive instead of map pins, maybe confident that Sour is unlikely to do the Moloch fight in the short term.
Yeah, I would think so. But then the question, I think, is where do you take the dive? Is this Green Path?
Choco is still without any grubs to his name, so I'm assuming we're headed in Green Path rather than Grimchild.
Yep. Yeah, one of the advantages you often get from rushing a goal like Durantu is that you scare your opponent away from checking Green Path. No one wants to be right behind the player in front of them. And so, we often see this sort of routing that Sour is doing where they go into Green Path just for the goal and rely that they can do a few crossroads checks and come back and still have a lead on Green Path.
And even in situations like this one where you don't scare the other runner away from the area, just the advantage of being able to warp back to a bench in Green Path and save yourself that trip a second time is very high utility.
Yeah, that lower Green Path bench saves about, I want to say maybe like a 90-second entrance time compared to Dirtmouth. And you can even see Choco sort of trying the fireball skip, but then deciding to take the lower route. Possibly going to do a mosquito pogo. But doesn't want to go to lower Green Path. With the Durandu kill, it's going to presume that Sour Cream already did the Fog Canyon checks, even though we know Sour Cream, unable to pogo across, ended up abandoning them.
And unfortunately for Choco, it looks like Sour is taking the early logic for it to Moloch.
Now, I can say I did a lockout race with Sour just last night where Sour again did the very early Moloch play, and it almost destroyed me because wings were at Moloch. So this is a play Sour likes to do. So I don't think it's too surprising to see this at all with the early VS and the early dive.
And with the Geo top off from Salubra that Choco didn't go for, this is probably going to be map pins for Sour, I'm guessing. I would be a little bit more surprised if he didn't just go for buying that goal, because grinding the husk for Geo 1 time is a lot more appetizing than grinding him for Geo 10 times.
True, and you could even just do a fireball skip to massive moss charger or something if you're sour cream to route that into a goal or in a more appealing way. I don't feel like there's as much pressure on sour cream to get dive as there was on Choco before Choco entered Green Path.
Yep. And with the instant warp to the Stone Sanctuary bench, that may be the play that Sour is looking for to get that skip back to massive Moss Charger.
Could be a Shade skip here. Or is it, I think this is Fog Canyon.
Interesting. So both of them putting aside 6 map pins for the time being.
Yeah, once again, it is easy to understand why sinking 600 Geo into that without LEM access is very unappealing.
Yeah, even beyond the theory, we've seen races earlier this tournament where the player who hit the bullet first and went for that goal.
That is the second unbreakable charm. So it's going to come down to when Choco checks Salubra or Sour Cream goes to Upper Green Path.
And with that Stagnus
stag to draw Sour Cream away from Green Path for even longer. I would expect to see that immediately after Queen Station.
Yeah, especially because that's 3 maps for Sour, pretty free there.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, a ton of checks to Howling Cliffs, plus the map, which is not too expensive.
And Choco going to go and do the Hornet fight, point of contention for runners, especially in the bracket phase of the tournament. We've seen a lot of internal debate over whether or not it's worth it to go for Hornet, including some races where Progression or Shaman Stone was at Hornet.
Yep, I am a big fan of Hornet. It's one of the fastest boss fights in the game, and it's a huge time investment to do Upper Green Path for just 2 checks. But you are right that it is very contentious.
And I know Sour in particular is not typically a fan of doing the Hornet fight on his first path through Green Path.
We may be corrected, as this is the Fireball skip, I believe, and Crystal Heart for Choco. Ooh, tragic.
First turnaround of the race that Sour has not nailed, while Choco finds a logical way over to Fungal.
Yep. It is, in fact, possible to do Queen Station skip and fail some of the turnarounds, but I think it usually is easier to fail the second turnaround than the first, in my experience. 2 out of 3 is what you really need.
I'll absolutely defer to you as the low percent runner in that regard.
Yeah, and that being said, if the less experienced you are, the more likely it is you're going to need all 3. There's a bit of leeway on the jump timing and stuff, but once you miss a turnaround, all that goes out the window.
So Sour taking the safe play here, getting a bench. There is sometimes with Stagnus Stag early and things like Cliff Soar Tablet or 3 maps, we've seen runners like rush for the goal and then double back for the bench, which is a time loss. Sour's pretty content to know that he and Choco are in different places and rewarded for that with a Lifeblood Charm.
Yeah, I don't think that assumption is as safe as it might have seemed to Sour Cream, given where Choco is right now. Could have been very possible Choco does lower Green Path instead of upper, but it did work out in this case.
And that Lifeblood Charm is essentially halfway to 2 goals right there, because Joni's is the Lifeblood Charm that makes 10 Lifeblood Masks at the same time. Significantly easier than any others.
In fact, that's possible immediately from the Queen Station bench. Just overcharm it and go up to the Cocoon. I would not be surprised to see that next, if that's on Sour Cream's mind. But yeah, it can definitely make sense to skip the Motto bench sometimes, but you do have to keep in mind you're losing like a minute and walking back if you do.
And Choco, meanwhile, taking advantage of this C-Dash to, I'm assuming, start on the Green Path Fungal Grubs, not looking to top off his Geo with massive Moss Charger. At this point, we've moved far enough into the game that it may be worth having a geo cushion in case you have to go for map pins early.
Yeah, I would get that geo cushion. I mean, the only real things that would motivate you to hang on to geo is fear of a stag chain or a shopkeeper's key turning up. But even in those cases, you're still going to want more than 300. But it may be that, especially with sour cream marking goals, yeah, there's a bit more fire under Choco to actually get some progression. A bit perturbed by landing in the acid that many times.
Meanwhile, Sour picking up Shaman Stone, not on this board, but with 2 spells early and Grimchild sitting very excessively. That's a good charm to have.
So what are we feeling in the world of curses? I want Lantern at Grim. That would make me happy.
I will
what
raise you.
What I really want is Lantern at Grim so that we can get Fluke Marm. Maybe after Shade Soul in an appropriately bad location.
See, I was going to raise you Lantern at Grim into 3rd Nail Art at Joni's into Vertical at NMG.
True. I was feeling something like, Shade Soul at Base and Simple Key, leading to Vertical at Fluke Marm.
We always bet on Fluke.
This is meant to be a Fluke seed, I feel. Simple Key, the early VS, early right side access, it has to happen, but anyways. So yeah, Choco going to go into Howling Cliffs, doesn't actually know that Sour Cream just did that. And this is actually good, just for getting that Lifeblood charm. Unfortunately, too little too late to get the Unbreakable Strength, as Sour does mark that.
And it looks like Choco may continue into Fungal here with the logical way to do it.
Yeah, this is what C-Dash unlocks at the moment. So either it was an early C-Dash and you would want to go into Fungal Waste, or it was a late C-Dash and you want to go to Base and Simple Key.
Yep, and Sour is biting the bullet and doing map pins, so...
Yeah, this is the downside of not taking the gamble on Choco's side. As Sour does buy the 180 map pin, you hate to see it.
It's seconds optimized. You don't want to spend time scrolling.
Let's see some respect for the geo optimizers versus the frame optimizers in here.
Yeah, especially with no lem. We're still waiting on our way to right side, but it looks like Sour still with more geo after the fact anyway. No dive yet.
And going to pick up Grimchild. Worth noting, we were talking about this deep contention about checking Mothwing Cloak. Sour Cream is going to be walking for a very, very long time now.
Yeah.
Because I think that it will take probably nothing short of Ismas and Vertical to get back to Hornet at this point.
And also the extra commitment. I don't know that we're going to see the Grim fight here unless it becomes the absolute last check-in logic, but of all the people with demonstrated clean Grim fights, even under circumstances less than ideal... Oh, but there's Dash. Never mind.
So that Crystal Heart was, in fact, very good early progression. Dash not unlocking too terribly much other than Thorns of Agony at the moment, but yeah, Choco just has all the horizontal movement over Sour right now. Also makes missing that Queen Station skip really painful in hindsight.
And I believe that's a goal, yeah. Hidden Station Stag at Leg Eater, so even more luck for Choco there. Just a little bit more expensive than he has the Geo for at this moment.
Oh no. What is this from Sour? Is this another attempt at Queen Station skip?
It looks like he's got Joni's equipped, so I'm assuming this is going to be 10 Lifeblood Masks.
You're absolutely right. That was my bad. I didn't notice that.
The UI for the custom Grim skin, I think Sour or one of Sour's loyal viewers designed the edits to this Grim skin themselves. Well, Choco continuing around to lower Fungal for we got Dashmaster and Claw, I believe, in Easy Logic.
But yeah, this makes for a really interesting split where Choco has all of the items right now, and Sour has all of the goals. The 5-1, but no horizontal movements. Is this Hornet? I think it is. That's going to be good for Sour. So Choco has a very limited window to take advantage of his movement. And if it is required Grim, then he may not have a lead at all.
Yeah, it's hard to commit to doing Grim early.
Yeah. He will get his third grub, which is important for that, though. So after Fungal Waste, he could conceivably do that. Might do Crystal Peak first, now that he has the dash to get the dive egg.
And this looks like also just some incidental Geo farm to grab that hidden station stag, which is good given that he's now on the time clock with Sour picking up this C dash.
Yep, lots of very good Geo rocks in the lower Fungal Waste area. It's a pretty good place to go to after you've exhausted the major sources.
Sure enough, from Sour, instant warp back down to Queen Station, so he is on the warpath to get dash and also has enough money to straight up buy this hidden station stag. So if Choco does not turn back around to Leg Eater soon, he may forfeit another goal to Sour.
Yeah, that would be extremely rough. Walking past all of these Geo rocks makes me really uncomfortable. Very disappointing. Because, once you're at this point, you cannot afford to give up anything. If you're Choco, just because. Oh, but he does get a nice Geo pickup off of Dashmaster. Not too big, but... Yeah, what I was going to say is, once Sour goes up 6-1, you're getting really close to that point where they can just trade 2-for-1 on every subsequent goal, and Sour is feeling pretty good with that.
Yeah, a little bit of a dicey situation there at Sporgs, but the next check in Sour's path is dash, so Choco, hopefully after this claw check, will go back and grab that hidden station stag, because that's probably about all the time he has left. Especially if he gets bullied a little bit by these Mantis youths.
Does manage to get up. Pogoing the warrior is a really nice backup strategy, compared to the Mantis youth pogo. And we get a second simple key. Could this be the legendary vertical and pleasure house seed? With simple keys at Fluke Farm and Nailmaster's Glory?
We've already seen a dive. Why not? Why settle for pleasure house? Vertical at God Tuner. Second vertical at God Tuner.
Second.
First vertical at Fluke Farm. Just in the nick of time.
Just in the nick of time. All right. Depending on the timing of this, I don't think Sour Cream will regret buying it. I think Choco will mark it before Sour Cream.
Yeah, it looks like a slight delay on Choco's side. And a third white fragment.
And the reason why I think you don't regret buying this is just because of that base and simple key that Crystal Heart is also progression towards. Well known for being very likely to have an item in Crystal Heart Seeds.
Especially when vertical is sparse early on into the game.
Yeah, the other option, we've been seeing all kinds of waterways since this seed, but we do also have both King Soul, I believe, and a Lifeblood Charm in Joni's, which makes Abyss look relatively appetizing, appealing. Worth actually noting on Easy Logic, nothing in Lifeblood Core is doable without vertical, but it's the heart that counts.
It's about love of the Abyss more than anything else.
Exactly. Any true Abyss fan would understand that you don't need logic to check Abyss. Yes, the chat pointing out that Sour cannot buy both Dive and Hidden Station at the moment because of those 6 map pin purchase. Yeah, Choco significantly better off in finances. And
especially with
great,
a third spell and a goal.
A progression goal, yeah.
I'm also interested in why Sour is grabbing this Essence. I don't believe Elder Who is on the board, although 2 Dream Warriors is. That makes sense. He could be just running back around for Gorb.
Yeah, that does make sense. I was thinking 0 through the Dark Room, but Gorb makes a lot more sense. And that also is a nice goal to get just because it gives you the possibility of instant items when you enter Resting Grounds that your opponent may not be willing to farm for.
Yeah, we've seen how that can turn a race.
Yeah, my race against Cthulhu was very heavily based on that Hera at 30 Essence or something like that. His willingness to farm that was really good for him.
Absolutely. And a third simple key before we have right side access.
And this
I hope this portends something entertaining.
Dash Darkroom, I believe. Or, no, this is going to be some hops. There is a pretty neat setup with Dash that you sometimes see in all skills runs. But looks like Choco not as familiar with that. Going to try to kill off the Crystal Hunter in the dark, which can be easier said than done.
And more often than not, the Crystal Hunter wins that game of rock, paper, scissors, as Sour gets the E-Pogo to go over this side to Mantis Claw.
Yeah, I don't like doing E-Pogo without vertical, of course, because it is a soft lock at Mantis Claw. Did Sour get the bench? I don't think so. Admittedly, I was watching Choco.
I don't think Sour got bread a bench. Yeah, no, it's not there. And Choco getting their way over. I think this is just the Soul Totem, right? I don't believe. Yeah, I don't think you can get to D-Dark without vertical.
Might be contemplating 0 though with Wraiths and VS. We'll see. Nah.
So this is going to be the Gorb play from Sour.
Yep, that's one more goal. Once again, as you build up a lead, it becomes increasingly worthwhile to sacrifice progression for one more goal. You can afford to make trade-offs. It's the luxury that Lockout affords you.
And especially since Choco had the early soul read on the Dreamnail at Moloch, this essentially cuts off his early lead entirely, having snagged both map pins and Dream Warriors.
That's a very good point. That Dreamnail did not end up being as useful as it might have been. If I had to guess, Choco was probably waiting on a Lantern Tram Pass, some sort of Resting Grounds access to make that Dreamnail useful both for goals and progression, but it just never materialized. Dash
and there's our third nail art.
At just under 500. So, could be in logic with like a Shade Cloak and a Lantern turning up. Otherwise, pretty unlikely, as Mantis Claw at 307, I believe.
Yeah, that's
couldn't quite make out the middle digit. It's certainly not in logic, but Sour will be able to get that very easily off of 0 and the Resting Grounds route.
It looks like Sour with the same idea in mind, also going to right side via this Dark Room, or at least getting these Crystal Peaks checks.
Notably, I believe that progression has been narrowed down to,
right there.
The intended progression has been narrowed down to either Thorns of Agony or Grim. Is that correct? Or Base and Simple.
Base and Simple key, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be fun to pick apart this seed after the fact.
Yeah.
But that Wings is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I really don't know. At this point, yeah, based on both the Claw and Wings locations, neither of which really feel two-ish. Who knows? But you sort of figure that it's Lantern or Trampass hiding out there, or Resting Ground Stag, maybe. This is all based on absolutely nothing, just commentator wistfully thinking.
Commentator who programmed the randomizer wistfully thinking, and the Shade Cloak, crypts and being stacked. Name a more iconic duo. I will wait.
So that does mean that the Wings might not even be the real one. That puts Markoth in, or within Isma, it would put Markoth in, and then who knows? Some possibilities here to play with. Really interested to see what the spoiler log says, because there are so many paths at this point, and I believe that was not a vanilla Soul Eater, or was it?
I think that
that does look very close to its vanilla location. It might have moved a few pixels down, so
I believe the chat is holding me to account.
Carefully measure our responses before we proclaim that it's vanilla without cause.
If I'm not mistaken, that is why the copy pasta starts by addressing you with, a more formal salutation. Dearest Homothety.
I'm so sorry, Quacksilver, that you chose to go down this path.
I do it for the content, same as everyone else in this community.
Alright, as Choco's going down the elevator, Sour staying in logic. We saw Choco had a tough time with the Dark Room. Sour Cream not going to even try it. This can make sense, but as we get the Stag Chain, finally. This is the Stag Chain we've all been waiting for.
The plot continues to thicken.
If this does lead to a Grim fight, that could give Choco a long time to exploit Vertical. Notably, still doing checks.
It's our fourth simple key. Let's go.
Notably, still doing checks from Choco could be a little costly, as this is the sort of position where you really do need to get the static goals while you have the vertical advantage.
Especially like Soul Sanctum into defeat Soulmaster.
I was gonna say, or even Waterways, since the simple key makes that fast, but the goal combo. Not only Soul Sanctum and Soulmaster, but with the Toll Bench potential of returning very quickly for 2 Soul Warriors.
Yeah, it's just a very goal-dense area, which is nice. And Sour gonna farm up some more Geo.
Yeah, it's also possible to get the Spore Shroom Grub and finish that goal. Choco may not want to do that at the moment, but because the Explosion Pogo can be a bit tricky.
Yeah, it's hard to run back to left side for goals when you're on your first pass through right side city, unless you're explicitly there to sell to Lem and then leave.
Right, and selling to Lem is very valid with 1500 Geo in the bank on here. But in that case,
true.
In that case, I would like to see skipping the arena and just really rushing that down. And that's just my opinion.
A lot of relics finally showing their faces here on right side city.
It is worth noting that a play we see very rarely is viable for Sour, which is using that 4th simple key very early to open GG and dump out all of those Rancid Eggs, since Jin is added by the randomizer. Could be valuable. I don't know how many they have access to, and the ones tend to be very expensive in shops, but could be enough to snipe the bank goal.
It looks like Sour is more interested in following this logic chain.
I think afraid of that abandoned Dashmaster, most of all.
Yeah.
Which absolutely is fair.
I mean, when you have 3 checks left in logic and one of them is the Grim fight, you want to make absolutely certain that you're checking everything else first.
But I guess it's what, Base and Simple and Grim? And Sour did not buy Hidden Station. Is that right?
I believe he did not, yeah.
Yeah, so this could also be coming down here to get a bit more GL. All right, we have Glowing Womb. And...
Nothing. Alas.
Nothing.
Okay, that Clawed Essence is a dupe, and the intended claws at God Tuner changed my mind.
Could it be that the Vengeful Spirit was a dupe, and the dive was super late in logic, and however many more things we would have to try to account for to make that the first in logic Balder killer? I don't think that works.
Alright, Sour is considering the Base and Simple Claw play.
I mean, it is Base and Simple Claw for a reason. It is worth noting there is some spicy stuff available with the QG Stag if you wanted to make a read. In fact, the QG Rant Stag is possible even easier with a lever skip. Also not in logic, but you know, if you are thinking there's any chance of Grim having Isma, then that's something you want to consider, you know?
Right, so Sour checking Hidden Station Stag, but not Base and Simple key.
Yeah, and I don't blame doing the Grim play early since Brum is on the board, and when you have a lead like Sour does, you know, it's very worth going for that sort of goal. But anyways, I am going to feel very proud of my analysis if it is Isma here, and otherwise I will simply be quiet and will pretend that I didn't say anything.
Makes sense. As Choco finds the third Shriek, the seed really wanted you to have damage.
Yeah, well, that's just a bit fluke farm in logic with the non-dupe vertical that we're all hoping for.
And Sour, always connoisseur of the Grim fight, very good at using nail arts to just maximize damage output.
I love this nail art usage. Very strong. Worth noting, all of the level 2 spells required sequence breaking between Dream Nail and the City Egg, so yeah, it doesn't really have that shriek for the really good damage output.
And Choco entering Soul Sanctum and marking that off, so tipping Sour off. It has honestly been enough time that Sour could believe that he's going to find, like, a claw here to just put right side in ordinary logic.
Yeah. I do wonder, Choco skipped the toll bench. Does he go back for it? Obviously, there are some possibilities with Soul Sanctum, but it will be a soft lock at Soul Master, and it's a pain to get back up here. And it's even more of a pain if you die to the Soul Warrior, which is notoriously hard to heal on. Ooh.
Ugh, that's not where you want to leave your shade.
Should I apologize for the curse, or am I innocent?
He was already on 1 health. It's not to the level of some comms curses we have seen, where the mere act of opening your mouth causes everything to go wrong.
Ooh, I love the person predicting City Crest at Grim. That would be gorgeous.
C-Dash City Crest is the single best form of horizontal movement the game has to offer.
I want City Crest at Grim into, let's say, Tram Pass at Fluke. Something really nice.
Something that makes everyone agree. Oh yeah, this is an easy seed, by the way.
Chat making a good point that ultimately it's the racer's obligation to prepare for commentator's curse, not the commentator's obligation to not curse.
Dreamer.
Is this spicy?
I mean, this makes...
Actually, this is really nice for Sour because despite this skip being supposedly in hard logic, it is significantly easier than the Dark Rim for someone who hasn't extensively memorized the platform locations. So this is going to be comfy resting grounds access and presumably wings access.
And for Sour...
Oh, it is progression egg too.
Yeah, well, Sour
is that not what you're thinking?
I was thinking Mantis Claw, if I'm not mistaken, was at 307 essence, and Sour already at 200, so he could just do
zero
and resting ground tree.
Yeah, that's very valid, and that would be instant fungal core elder plus making a lot of the claw blocked goals more realistic.
Yeah,
and
Pale Lurker.
Maybe you don't immediately rush Pale Lurker, but it's an option. Beastin synergizes excellently with Brumflame now. In other words, a lot of good options with Claw, especially if you're Sour.
Yeah, I don't know what Sour's comfort level is with Dark Deepness. Maybe waiting for a DD Stag for that set of goals, but having 2 goals in one location there is definitely appealing.
All right, so right now, right here, what do you think are the odds that we ever find out the intended progression at Base and Simple Key?
Like you said, there's nothing really compelling the runners to check the Abyss, especially since we haven't seen King's Brand so far because Locust didn't generate this seed. So I'm gonna go with we won't get the chance to see it unless we stall on goals like 12-12 somehow.
Yeah, there was nothing at high essence, right?
There was Dashmaster at like 600 or 700, which is a goal, but not that like...
Oh yeah, or it wasn't it a Dash Slash at like just under 500?
Was a Dash Slash at around 500, but there was also, I believe the last check here was Dashmaster for 6 or 7.
So Sour actually preemptively opening Spirit's Glade, not knowing that Wings is right around the corner. Yeah,
Dashmaster at 630. And with Shriek, this Soulmaster fight over on Choco's side is essentially trivial. Sour even starting on this essence hunt before even getting the checks. Okay, I was worried he was going to go do all this work for Claw and only find Wings after the fact.
Yeah, that would be funny. In either case, going to want both.
Yeah, I mean,
they really do let you do different stuff, and with this, and assuming we get a Crypts check as well, which it certainly seems likely, this is full movement except for Isma. We're gonna get that Shade Cloak. Gonna give just perfect flexibility for Sour Cream, and gonna make clearing out this seed very quick.
There's our second Dreamer, Hera at Soulmaster.
Yeah, we're one step closer to the Essence. Or, I'm sorry, what? World Sense. I got mixed up in my mind because I was queuing up my next comment for Choco going after Essence for Claw and those higher level goals we saw. Notably, would give him Nailmaster's Glory access and Dashmaster, if he can get enough.
Yeah.
Probably focused only on Claw right now, but...
And like Dash Shriek is a good set of equipment for the Soul Tyrant fight. There are some things, like we've seen Strength and another VS would be nice, but you're at the point where once you got Dash and Shriek, you have no guarantee that it will get better on any good time frame. So if you're looking to get Essence, might as well do this fight now.
Where was Shaman?
Shaman was...
Boulder Shell?
That sounds right.
Yeah, something like that. In other words, somewhere really out of the way for Choco at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't go back to Glyphs. Yeah, especially if you're in his position, you really don't have the luxury of doing random checks as much. It's one of the one of the punishing things about Lockout, you have to be very on duty with your routing.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why I really like this play here by him. Soul Tyrant is the perfect way to tie together everything.
Meanwhile, Sour just evaporating 0 with Shaman Shriek. So Sour gonna get his claw.
You think he goes
here.
straight to Fungal Core?
That seems like the fastest goal to realistically do. Fungal Core and then Pale Lurker thereafter, maybe?
Yeah. And Pale Lurker in particular is something you don't really want to rush, even with VS, to make it significantly nicer. Do like the focus on keeping HP up on Choco's side. We have seen too many people die during the second phase of Soul Tyrant simply because it is so brutal.
Yeah, the second phase of Soul Tyrant absolutely was like multi-hour time investment in my first time running into him casually. He's fast.
Yes, it is quite fast.
Yeah, that's also worth pointing out. Choco has still not marked defeat Soulmaster, so it could be could be misreading the goal, but could also be a very high order bait here.
I can't imagine it's bait. Maybe. Keep in mind that Choco did die between when he marked visiting Soul Sanctum and when he killed Soulmaster, which means that he would be heavily inviting a snipe. So this might not be the essence play we thought it is. This might be misreading Soulmaster for Soul Tyrant. We will have to ask about that.
Yeah.
In any case, it will heavily advantage him for the time investment, whether he intended it that way or not.
But not if he dies here.
You said it, not me. I'm innocent this time.
Yep, I absolve you.
Oof. And part of the downside of 1 HP not only is in the risk of dying, but also in the fact that you play so much more conservatively. Only got 1 Shriek off in that entire phase, which is just really costly. All right, and he is out. He is in the clear, but he has sacrificed the bank goal to do it. I completely forgot about. Kudos to Sour for saving up the money. Yeah, this probably should have been more of a priority in hindsight.
And with the still not marking Soulmaster or Analog, I worry we have just lacked the reading on the board rather than misread the board.
I mean, presumably at some point Choco will see it and mark it, and in the meantime it could potentially be to his advantage. But I seriously doubt Sour is going to ever try that, knowing that Choco has been that close and could be a minute away at any given time. So it just ends up being weird. Is this Lostkin for Dashmaster? Lostkin very hard with this current loadout, for sure. Frankly, I would say it's hard even with VS and Shaman Stone. As anyone who's done Shriek Route knows, but it is an option.
Yeah, that is definitely a fight you absolutely want Shade Soul for. I'm hoping this is the base and simple key play and dip, but...
Yep. We're going to see what our progression is, finally. Notably, on the other side, Sour not interested in Fungal Core. Going to prioritize the grub goal, possibly go there now. Oh, I love that Malurks have a boss bar.
Yeah, it's one quirk of the HP bar mod.
I guess because they are, one-time enemies, maybe. I don't really know much about it.
City storeroom stack is the
Is
intended
the
progression.
left side access to waterways. I believe we know that there was nothing at Rafter Seal. We haven't seen storerooms, but I mean, who seriously thinks it's in storerooms? Please. Ooh.
So we
Choco
are
has sort of a tough climb with no claw. Gonna have to be patient here.
eyeing the continuation, which is a dangerous use of time here, I think, especially with Claw right over there.
And he could just get claw with 7 more essence. Whereas Sour is sort of confusing me. I guess this is Nosk. I mean, Nosk is pretty easy with Shriek, Shaman, and Wings, right? So, or Fungal Core? Fungal Core? Pale Lurker. Well, I don't know.
You got full movement, you got some options.
I'm just here talking. I don't actually know anything. Maybe this is Pleasure House. No, I'm sorry.
Continuing all the way around.
Maybe this is the 2 greatest words in the English language?
We're headed in that direction. Or it could just be the Soulmaster snipe at this point.
Maybe it is. Maybe Sour is just making the call, which is super respectable, and Choco is going to be enraged if this happens. Like I said before, I think it's worth going to Soul Sanctum in any case, because either runner could get Elegant Key and get that goal. Or, if you're really bold and Sour's position, why not just go for Pale Lurker and Call 03 at the same time? Who's going to stop you?
And it is, if you're committing to Call 03, you can rest assured that no one is going to try and snipe you on Call 03.
Yeah, the Soul Warrior is, a little under halfway through Call 03. It is an option, if not a very good one.
And not going to be rewarded for that.
Yeah, unfortunate. We'll see. I hope he opened the shortcut. Oh yeah, someone else pointing out, God Home would also be an option for the Soul Warrior, I suppose. I don't know if that's covered in the bingo rules or not, but I believe that is allowed.
Yep. Any boss fight in that way can be done in God Home. That's most often you see it used for Nightmare King Grim because he actually has less health and doesn't force the Grimchild equip in God Home. But it can be used for Soul Warriors as well, and they do have the pieces to get there rather than do Call 03.
But is it truly a different Soul Warrior, or is it just a memory of the same Soul Warrior? Let's debate the ontology here. I don't want us to feel like we're glossing over the details.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're getting the Lostkin fight, so this is a goal still.
This is a goal, but Choco has about maybe a little under a minute to remember that Soulmaster is in that first column. Does seem like he's doing a pretty decent job at the moment. Keep in mind that with his damage, he is going to run out of stuns about, I want to say around 2/3 of the way through this boss, which means that he better be at full health when that happens. One of the hallmarks of this underpowered Lostkin fight is that the music will loop. It is that long.
Yeah, Lostkin, because Lostkin is the first Dream Boss you fight in the True Ending run, yes?
Yes, it is. In Shade Soul Route, you fight Failed Champion immediately afterwards. In Shriek Route, you fight Failed Champ much later, but in every route, this is the first because you get Wings very early.
And as we were talking about the underpowered Lostkin Sour Mark Soulmaster, that cannot be a good feeling.
Yes. I mean, there is no rationale to leave it unmarked that long. It has to have been a mistake. That just feels really bad. I would not blame Jonko at all if that leaves him feeling bad or feeling tilted at the end of this.
And Sour with Claw as well, also able to get these checks afterwards.
Yep. Don't think there was anything important, but... Alright.
So now it looks like...
I think that was... Alright. No, still one more stun.
Looks like we're in the post-stun phase.
Yeah, I can't tell, and I also don't know. This could be one of those things which got edited between 1221 and 1432. You never know. Yeah, they did change a few stun counts, like Hornet, from 5 to 6 hits with the combo. So I don't want to sound too authoritative on something I really don't know about. And it looks like GP Root, using that nice QG stack from Thorns of Agony, this is something that Choco wouldn't even have a clue for how to contest if he wanted, simply because he never needed to check Thorns. And
oh no!
Unfortunate.
That is arguably the single worst place to die.
And this is exactly what I was talking about. Dying, so deep into Lost Kin, seeing that he lost Soul Master, which should have been his by all rights. I think it's really hard to mentally, emotionally continue from that. We'll see what he does, but... Yep. We do get the text. This is defeat in all senses except goals. But even that, what are we looking at? GP Root, Soul Master, GP Root and Fungal Core is gonna put Sour at 10, Pale Darker, Nosk, Brahm's Flame, Beast Den, and there are just so many staticals with Claw. Even if Choco were to go straight there, it would be really hard to contest at this point. You'd need incredible luck.
Hopping back into the Lost Kin fight, there is a goal in the form of Dashmaster as well as the NMG check on the line, but that is a rough position to be playing from for sure.
Yep. And it is worth noting, too, that it is far, far, far easier to read the board from the position of a viewer or commentator compared to a racer. We are sitting here with nothing else to do but look at the card and occasionally glance at the screens. When you're actually playing the game, you look away from the screen and suddenly you take damage and you're this much closer to dying. So...
Especially on these harder boss fights, unequipped.
Yeah,
take damage.
These sorts of mistakes do happen, so it's just a fact of life. Yeah, it is, I want to say 1250 HP on Lost Kin, with a 5 damage nail, a 15 damage VS, and a dive that does 15 damage on the splash and 15 damage if you connect while going down. In other words, that is a lot of hits.
It's certainly a long fight.
250 nail hits. And maybe lessened a bit by spells, but you also have to heal.
Thankful for the HP bars mod in this context to really showcase exactly how much of a slog the Lost Kin fight can be when you don't have the full equipment for it. The fight as Sour continues just knocking off goal after goal.
Yep, this looks like Beast Den through the Dark Room. This is the easiest way to do the Dark Room coming from above. And probably is faster than Nosk or Pale Lurker at this point, considering there are 2 goals clustered there. Not to mention, you gotta feel like you want to take advantage of doing that Grim fight early on, since it didn't pay out. Even though I feel like this is a bit more likely to get sniped than the others.
Yeah, there is no telling where Choco goes, because after this fight, he almost certainly has Claw. I cannot imagine a reason why we wouldn't be getting Claw after collecting enough Essence to buy out Essence.
Yeah, so... And there could be something important at Nailmaster's Glory. I mean, I think Life Blood Charm obviously would be the immediate goal. Shade Soul would probably be the most useful thing in general, but yeah, I think probably the best possible outcome for Choco is like he clears out Resting Grounds like we talked about. Hopefully, I was about to say, I don't remember what the exact timing is to die in Lost Skin and still get the Essence. It's patch dependent. But I think the best possible thing that could, and yeah, not even possible at this point to get him back in, but if it were a bit wider, you'd want to see clear out Resting Grounds, go to Kingdom's Edge, and just hope to have everything on your path. But yeah, I think that was simply winning against Lost Kin to recover his pride. Certainly he knows that Sour has a huge movement advantage and has been using it to great effect.
So this is going to be Claw, NMG, and a goal. True insult to injury, of course, is if the DV Stag or the first check in Beasten are Sprint Master. That would be perhaps the worst thing.
Yep, undoubtedly.
But also, Sour, yeah, has enough to move quickly to the Trilobite room, so this is going to be a quick GG over here. So we've moved past the Trilobite room.
Could be a game knowledge moment.
Could also just be a irritating Fireborn moment to save the grub before finishing.
Nope, that's the Georocks. Not using Shade Cloak. You really do. Hate to see it. If only there were some sort of way to go through the Devout instead of killing it.
There it is.
Alright, G.
That is going to be GG.
G.
Right, and we've confirmed that Choco is not going to join us for a post-game interview, but we will go ahead and get Sour in here. Hello, Sour. GG.
Hello.
I'm going to pull the spoiler log up real quick, although I think we have a pretty good understanding of where the...
It's not working for me. Give me 1 second. Hello. I just had a Windows update like 10 minutes before the match, so everything's broken.
No, that's alright. We're just trying to recover the intended progression.
Oh, I'm good. Alright, hello. GG's.
GG. I believe you were the one who did the infection pogo after fighting Grim. And Choco did the Dark Room to Resting Grounds, so we did not actually see the intended progression, which was that City Storeroom Stag at Basin Simple Key.
Yeah.
Isma's Tier in Waterways, Tram Pass at Fluke Nest, a Distant Village Stag in the Basin Journal. Of course, the Tram Pass at Fluke Nest was the progression to Wings. Always a Fluke Seed.
Always.
What did you not call specifically Tram Pass at Fluke Nest?
I believe I did specifically say Tram Nest at Fluke Pass, or something like that.
And since I know Chad is asking, Nailmaster's Glory had world sense.
Man, I really wanted that.
The remaining Vengeful Spirits, the Dive Journal in Kingdom's Edge, and Sly Key with a Shopkeeper's Key at DV Stag, and DV Stag at that Basin Journal. Maybe a few other things. We could look at Lifeblood Charms and other stuff in a moment, but what were your thoughts on the race? Sorry to cut you off so much.
Well, I don't know. I just felt that like the whole progression was just the one check, and then at the very end, as I was doing the infection skip, I'm like, I have Hidden Station Stag. It's probably there. It's probably a Basin Simple Claw. So
it was, and no one checked it until Choco saw it near the end when he went over there to fight Lost Kin. But yeah, actually, the two of you were taking very different routes through most of the early game. Choco got a Dream Nail from Alec much earlier than you did. Actually got Wings earlier than you did, but I think that what sort of swung it towards you was just that willingness to take a few more gambles and go after goals. Particularly, the two Dream Warriors was critical.
Did I snipe him out of that?
No, he never went for it, but because it meant that you could get claws so easily. He had 0 essence when he went to Resting Grounds, and so decided to do City, Soul Sanctum, even Basin, all without claw.
Oof.
So that is particularly rough.
Yeah. The seed wasn't like, I don't want to say curse, but it wasn't baby at the same. It was like kind of in the middle. I enjoyed the seed.
Handing you all of the
hate
you
that
need for Grim away.
I hate that dupe Wings cheating us out of our content, but other than that, and let's be clear, it was a dupe Wings.
Oh, the one that I got at Resting Grounds?
Yeah, the one both of you got. The Mantis Claw was intended. The real Wings, Crystal Peak, the Conga Line, and the dupe Claw, Birthplace.
It's always the Abyss.
Yeah.
Love Key would have been at Monomon, which of course always has content. Sprint Master at Nosk, so actually 2 and 1 if you wanted to finish that way.
I mean, yeah. Sorry, I forgot to turn off stream notifications apparently. Yeah, I just never thought to like do that dark room because I'm very bad at it, even with dash.
It's a tough one for sure. Probably one of the hardest, and especially because it's so often required with no vertical, no real recovery options.
If I had Wings, like I could do it with just Wings or C dash Claw. I could probably do it with C dash Dash, but I didn't really want to spend 10 hours on it. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, we were all, I think, hoping for a earlier Lantern, but this seed it was vanilla at Shade Cloak, so never going to turn up.
Yeah. At the very end, I had a clear goal. I didn't even know what to do first. There was so many goals available to me once I had Claw Wings.
Yeah, Claw and Wings were just huge in this. And early on, we were feeling like a lot of slowish static goals, but I think that finding that QG Stag, which you got because you did a few more checks in Green Path than Choco did, that just gave you so many options with the easy Beastin access, the Green Path route access. That was really advantageous.
Yeah, I thought about just going from when I hit the Hot Springs bench to go straight to Nos, kill Nos, and then go to Dark Deepness that way. But then I remembered that the route was on the board, so it made me think otherwise.
No, you were definitely pulled in a lot of directions as soon as you had full movement on this seed.
Yeah, I'm like, do I go to Fungal Core Elder? Do I do the grubs now? Like, I just, just didn't want to get sniped, so I just try to do them as quickly as possible too.
So yeah, any deep-seated unease when you decided to spend 680 geo on map pins instead of on dive, or were you feeling pretty comfortable with that decision?
Well, once I had VS, I didn't really care too much about dive. Like, there's only like one check in C peaks I could have gotten that would have dive given me that VS wouldn't. So I mean, by the time I finish in full clear and I have no more options, I should have Geo at that point, or at least option or like places to grind it better.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in the early game talking about how 6 map pins without right side access can sometimes be a trap, and especially with that really expensive dive.
That was
You
expensive.
and Choco both did a lot of back and forthing in terms of who had the Geo lead and who had bought what. So it was exciting to follow along and watch you eventually just go for it, because he found Claw at Dreamnail at Moloch almost instantaneously. He went to Moloch pretty early, and so your early advantage was a lot on the back of cutting him off of those early Dreamnail goals.
Yeah. Did he have Stagnus stag when I?
He did not.
Okay.
Basically, what happened was you revisited Lower Green Path right at the same time as he entered Green Path for the first time, and he went straight to Upper Green Path, which did mean he had Crystal Heart for a long time. Actually, he went into Fungal instead of following you in the Howling Cliffs when he finally went there. So there was a point in time when you had nothing and he had Dash and Crystal Heart. But, ultimately just sort of got stuck trying to catch up on Geo. Just barely got a hidden station before you, I think he got it right as you were at Shroomel Ogres.
Yeah. I remember him marking that when I was going to Leg Eater, saw it at Leg Eater. I'm like, well, I guess I'm late to this.
But yeah, that was thanks to a lot of Geo farming. Because he had already bought Dive, I think, or something to that effect. But yeah, that was just rough. There was no obvious way to proceed in the seed when base and simple key is something that people don't like to sink time into, even though it's always progression.
It's so forgettable. It's you don't think that you have that available to you if you have the hidden station stag.
I honestly think it's morphed somewhat over the course of the tournament. At the beginning, it was definitely, oh, no one thinks about base and simple key. And now with all of the like mimetic value placed on it, instead of not thinking about it, everyone thinks, surely it couldn't be in my seed.
It's only in everyone else's seed that claws at base and simple key, and this seed is just going to be a stag. Though I am really glad that somehow we got base and simple key and Fluke Nest. This was a really good seed in terms of combining all of the memes and yet not letting us enjoy any of them.
Just as Hollow Knight intended.
All right, so you will advance to round 3 against Tomas. I think both of you are entered for the first time in the bracket stage, so we'll look forward to that. Yeah.
We don't have anything on the upcoming schedule just yet because this is the last match scheduled for this like round of the tournament, but I think we're starting the next one just about instantaneously, so stay tuned and we will have a lot more Hollow Knight content.
We're going to be seeing round 3 from winners and losers shortly, and so of both brackets, so look forward to that. It's going to be another 12 match week. A lot of Hollow Knight content, so see you then.
GG's.
GG's again.